All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Real Talk. Jeff here. Brad, how are you, sir?
I'm good, man. What's going on?
Nothing much, man. Ready to talk some football?
Yes,
I got
sir.
I got some great news. Just about an hour ago, these showed up on my doorstep. So for all you guys that are watching on YouTube, you guys get to see the sneak peek of the Real Talk T-shirts. Those are $15 each. Thank you to all of you guys that have ordered. I already had one individual come and pick their T-shirt up from my house. Um, yeah, $15. If you don't have an order placed or you're not a large or extra large, no problem. I can still place more orders, but I do have a couple of large and extra large in stock ready to go. With that being said, we just dropped our power rankings the other day. I felt really good about mine. I thought yours was great too. Um, I know a couple people have started to get in on the power rankings on the Facebook page. That's something I always enjoy and entertain as far as who people think are better than other teams.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, and I encourage you listeners to continue to do that. Continue to show us your power rankings. Um, Reach out to us if you want to be on a power rankings episode. They're quick episodes, so we definitely have enough time to have one extra person on and you know come on live and drop your power rankings for the world to hear. But with that being said, I'm ready to get into week 6 recap. What about you?
Yeah, me too. I'll let you take it away. We're going to start with two teams that didn't make our power rankings episode. So, Broncos Patriots. I know you watched this one.
I did. I watched the entire game. Um, Gosh, man, we're 5 games into this season. The Patriots had a bye, so I've been, I guess you could say, fortunate. I'm going to say unfortunate to have seen every one of their games, and it's been a tough watch. This one was really tough. Let's start with the facts here. The 2-3 Broncos defeat the 2-3 Patriots. Denver moves to 2-3. They win 18-12. It's not every day that a team scores 18 points and doesn't score a touchdown, but that's what happened here. And the Broncos were able to move the ball primarily fairly easily between the 20s. It's once they got into that red zone that they pretty much struggled, and that New England has historically been pretty good. The story of the game, and it is what it is. But New England, they turned the ball over, 3 times in this game. Denver threw 2 interceptions, but fortunately enough for them, those 2 interceptions came very late in the game on their last 2 of 3 drives. And New England was just not good. I mean, that's just really the meat and potatoes of it. They allowed 4 sacks. Credit to Denver. Denver came to play. I think a lot of people probably counted them out. The biggest thing is, and I'm not making excuses, Belichick did, and he typically doesn't, but he said this team just didn't practice. I mean, they've had one practice in the last 2 weeks. It showed. Cam Newton was terrible, 2 picks, he had a fumble himself. He was able to finally get the run game going late in the game, but ultimately it wasn't enough. For those of you DraftKings guys, look out for Tim Patrick. If you're not a Broncos fan, I personally had never heard of him. Big physical receiver, seemed unguardable. He was targeted 8 times, caught 4 balls for 100 yards. If it wasn't for as good as New England's secondary was, he was matched up on our fourth corner and pretty much took him to task. I think he's definitely one of those guys that's going to start showing himself from what I've seen on this game. He was great. Philip Lindsay was fantastic. He was definitely a difference maker as well. But ultimately, story of this game was the fact that the Denver Broncos never turned it over until extremely late in the game. They were able to control the clock, run the ball, and New England just could not keep the ball moving. They had 3 points through 3 quarters. Wasn't enough.
Yeah, it's nice to see Philip Lindsay get back over 100 yards for the Broncos.
Yeah.
The Patriots did their job. We've talked multiple times. If you hold the team to 21 or less points, you should be winning those games. 18 points is not going to win a lot of games in the NFL. 6 field goals, that's always amazing for any kicker to make 6 in a game. It's kind of shocking that outside of Cam Newton, the Patriots could only muster up 43 rushing yards. So, I mean, that's a little nerve wracking. 43 yards on 15 carries.
Yeah.
Julian Edelman looks better at QB than wide receiver as of late. He was 2 for 2, the little gadget plays. But yeah, there's no question I believe the Philadelphia Eagles have had the most injuries in the league, but I don't think it's questionable that the Patriots have been the most affected by COVID. They had 8 players opt out, the movement of their schedule, the change of the bye week, the lack of practice. One game Cam Newton couldn't play, now he's thrown in. The Patriots have a new quarterback, and they haven't been able to practice much with him before the season, and they haven't been able to practice a ton during the season. So, as much as this team looked pretty good they were 2-0 to start, right? They've lost 3 straight.
No, they lost week 2. They've won one, lost one, won one, lost one, and now they've lost one. Yeah.
Yeah, so the Patriots, it's been an unfortunate schedule, but I heard an analogy that maybe the Patriots don't have to do it the typical Patriot way in dominating fashion. They could be like a New York Giants when they beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl, or maybe a March Madness basketball team. The Patriots just have to get hot at the right time. But if you're a Patriots fan, you can take solace in knowing you don't have to worry about your defense. The Patriots defense has played fine, and they were able to make Drew Lock look awfully pedestrian. Less than 200 yards, 2 picks. It was really the running game and field goals, and this game just came down to the turnover battle. And the Broncos did enough to get an upset win. But I think the Patriots going forward, I think they'll be able to move past this game for a plethora of reasons, and it won't really slow them up going forward.
Yeah, like you just said, Drew Lock was under 200 yards, and as I pointed out, Patrick had 100 of those yards on 4 catches. They were all big plays. There were actually, coincidentally, I think every single one went over 20 yards. Some went 25, some went 30, whatever, but all went over 20 yards. So it was definitely a bigger play day for them as far as that. They were able to keep the ball and run it. And I mean, that was the difference. And truthfully, I'm not holding on to this game. That game's in the past. We'll see how New England comes out against San Francisco this weekend. It'll be interesting because I can't see them dropping 3 in a row.
And we'll get to it in a little bit.
For me, I can't. Yeah.
We'll get to it in a little bit, though, but the Bills have dropped a few games. The Dolphins are in the mix, but the division's completely winnable. The Bills aren't running away with it.
Wide open. It's wide open. Yeah, and the Dolphins smell blood. We'll talk more about that in a little bit, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on here, this was probably one of the better games of the day, if not the best game of the day. The Tennessee Titans moved to 5-0. They win 42-36 over the Houston Texans, who are 1-5. I took a lot of things away from this game. Lots of things. First off, the first game without Bill O'Brien, correct? First game?
Mm-hmm. No, this is their second.
Second game.
It's their second game.
Okay, their second game.
Bill O'Brien. He got fired week 4. They beat the Jaguars like we predicted, and then they ran into the Titans.
Okay, so first off, Deshaun Watson was incredible. 28-37, 335, 4 touchdowns. Pretty much had this game won. He had a game-winning drive, matter of fact. It just wasn't enough, and we'll get to that in a minute. Will Fuller finally seems to be somewhat healthy and is getting the job done. Brandon Cooks is fitting in. He had 9 catches. There's a lot to say about the Texans as far as what they're able to do. They did have a pick in this game. They had a couple of sacks. They played really, really well, but they went up against the Titans, who are one of the hottest teams over the last year and a half-ish, we'll say. Mm-hmm. Ryan Tannehill, 30 of 41, 366, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick. Derrick Henry had a 94-yard run, but even without that run, 22 carries, 212, and 2 touchdowns. So he still had over 100 on 21 carries. He was just a dominant force in this game. They added another 50 yards rushing from McNichols on 5 carries. I mean, they ran it. This is incredible. 27 times for 260 yards. It's just dominating. And that's really the difference of this game. But there is one thing I wanted to bring up. I will bring it up after your assessment. What did you think?
Yeah. You got to like what the Titans did winning the game. Really high scoring game.
Yeah.
They found a new weapon in Anthony Firkser, the tight end that came in. 8 catches for 113. The Titans are an incredibly balanced offense. It all starts with the run, but they can get it done through the air. Tannehill, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick. Deshaun Watson, 4 touchdowns to all different targets. He doesn't play favorites here. A lot of players had a lot of targets. I do think they need to try and run the ball more, but Brandon Cooks, you said 9 catches. That's on 9 targets. We all thought Brandon Cooks was done, or I know a majority of people did, and he seems to be working it in here. Um, I thought maybe this team might make a bigger push at Le'Veon Bell, but with their losing record, maybe that wasn't plausible. But this is a team we've called from the get. We haven't been wrong yet on the Texans. We predicted the coach is firing, their
Money.
record. We've been 100% on the Texans all year. But I will say the Titans defense is susceptible. I mean, it's not good that they shut out the Texans for a quarter and still allowed 36 points. And none of their games outside the weird Monday night against the Bills, all their games have been very tight, very losable games, but they've come out on top. And again, we've alluded to this a couple times. I believe Mike Vrabel is in the lead for Coach of the Year, and he did something absolutely spectacular that you just don't see a coach impacting the game as much as Vrabel has. And I'll let you get into that situation right now.
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of people will remember on live television last year. Most people were watching this game because it was the only football game on. The Patriots were playing the Titans in the playoff game, and with the game ticking away, and the Titans had the ball. Vrabel held the ball for continual delay of game penalties while letting the clock tick away, and you can see Belichick getting furious on the sideline, and that was kind of like the seed being planted for this game. And there was a situation where the Houston Texans had the ball and they were driving and they were within scoring position. They were on the 25-yard line. It was 2nd and 1. They're going to run a play, and they're probably going to get a first down. Okay. When you get a first down, you're going to let the clock tick away, and you're going to lose roughly 40 seconds of gameplay with the play clock. Well, Vrabel said, you know what? Not today. I'm not going to let us lose like this. He intentionally throws a gentleman out there for a 12th man penalty. That penalty stops the clock. The clock never runs. They pick up the first down. They gained 5 yards out of the play. So now it's 1st and 10 at the 20-yard line. Okay. But now there's still a 3-minute and 7-second time gap that's still there. So he never lost the 40 seconds from losing the first down. He just gave them a first down. And you're like, well, what? You don't trust your defense? Both of these teams allowed over 35 points. That's 5 scores. At that point, it's not. I don't think it's that he didn't trust his defense. He just trusted his offense that much and knew he needed the time. No matter what was going to happen, he knew his team was going to score a touchdown if they had the acquitted amount of time, the accurate amount of time. So he's like, you know what? Here it is. I'm going to throw the guy out there. We're going to get the penalty. He took the penalty. Houston ends up scoring, so he looks like a genius. And what do? They score with 4 seconds left. 4 seconds. If he doesn't have that 40 seconds, he doesn't even get to that 4 seconds. He doesn't get to 15 seconds. He doesn't get to 20. He needed all of that time. It's an absolute genius move. Warren Sharp was the first person, NFL insider, to bring light of it. Brings it up on his Twitter account, gets thousands of retweets. Everybody's talking about it. I'm bringing it up on the show here. It's just one of those things where we need to talk about Mike Vrabel in the game managing aspect. There's so many coaches that are good on offense. There's coaches that are known for defense. Vrabel's really not known for either of those. Right now, he's known for coaching. That dude can just straight coach. He took Tannehill, who a lot of us wrote off. You know, Derrick Henry's always been a guy, but he's never been known as like a workhorse back. Like, here, let's give him 30 carries like he was getting in college. I mean, Vrabel's like, I know I can beat you if I give this guy 30 carries. Okay? He's got his defense playing well, and now he's going above and beyond in game managing with the clock. And if you can dominate the clock, ask Bill Belichick how many rings you can win in this league. It's something else.
Yeah, and I have no problem with coaches, so to speak, manipulating the rule. If Romeo Crennel on the other side knew what was going on, 12 men is a declinable penalty. If Romeo Crennel wanted to take that risk, but no one really knew what was going on. Vrabel was way past the Texans organization on that front. And in the end, you say, okay, the Titans go on to lose the game. Well, you gave them a free first down. That's terrible. How do you allow 12 men? You know, it can go either way. Vrabel rolled the dice, and it worked for him.
They could very easily decline that penalty.
Yes.
They could have.
So moving forward, it's great to watch Mike Vrabel. The Titans have been an absolute pleasure to watch from the neutral perspective, and I'm sure as Titans fans, you're loving it. And yeah, like you said, what Vrabel's done to be able to progress all aspects of his team, it seems like everyone's playing better. They've all bought in, and it leads them into an absolutely the matchup of the week next week, where the unstoppable force meets the immovable object. And right now, the unstoppable force is Derrick Henry, and the immovable object is the Steelers' defense. And I'm just going to transition right into that game next.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've been very humble, trying not to express how good I believe the Steelers are. They're the best team in the NFL. They're the best. They're a balanced offense. They're a balanced defense. They can win with their offense. They can win with their defense. The Steelers have been lucky to stay relatively healthy. They just had their first loss of the season. Devin Bush is gone for the year. Spillane came in for him and played actually really well, but I know a lot of people are going to look at the statistics of this game and what they saw with their eyes. And Baker's terrible, and you know they should have done that to Baker the way he was playing and whatnot. I wasn't hearing any of that when they were 4-1 before they played the Steelers. And I believe every single Browns fan believed they had a chance to win that game until about 8 minutes into the first quarter. So the statistics, the Steelers have all sorts of statistics here. James Conner, this is his third game with over 100 yards and a touchdown rushing. One of the 2 games he didn't have that. He got hurt in the first quarter, and our backup, Benny Snell, went for over 100 yards. Anybody who has social media or has access to the show knows what Chase Claypool has done in his emergence. A big question mark for the last 2 years is, can Juju Smith-Schuster be a number 1? Maybe. He doesn't have to be. Chase Claypool looks to be like a number 1. We'll see if Mapletron sticks. It seems as though it will. Rumor is he wants Air Canada. We'll see how that goes. The Steelers defense is the second team in NFL history to have 3 sacks and an interception in the first 5 games. Every single game they've had at least 3 sacks and an interception. Minkah Fitzpatrick been quiet because no one wanted to test him. Baker wanted to test him, and the defense scored as many points as the Browns did. He's an absolute playmaker, silent assassin. He'll be quiet forever, and then it just takes one play. He's a game changer. There's a couple cases to be made, but the Steelers are 5-0. I know I haven't really gone in on the Browns here, but Baker was hurt, and he looked very pathetic. The running game looked like they missed Nick Chubb, but again, the Steelers have the number 1 run defense in the NFL, allowing less than 3 yards a carry on the year. More or less, I find myself looking at the Steelers-Browns game, and I've moved on. This game was kind of over in the first half. The second half, I was already looking at what we got to do to beat the Titans next week. Excuse me. But not much to say. The Browns didn't look good, but they're still 4-2. They have a absolute legitimate shot at making the playoffs. Outside of the Steelers and Ravens that they each have to play one more time, their schedule looks relatively simple. They play both New York teams. They still have to play, the Bengals again. So Cleveland's got a very workable schedule, but going forward, I think they're going to need a new quarterback if they want to contend for more than just the playoffs. But I'll toss it to you.
Yeah, just Cleveland's not good enough to play from behind. That first off, we both said that this game was going to be Pittsburgh no matter what. I wasn't sure how it was going to play out. I wasn't shocked to see this type of score, but Pittsburgh this is the Browns. I mean, this is terrible. So it's 3 plays, 7 yards, pick 6. That's after the Steelers scored. You're now down 10-0. Here's the remainder of the half. 3 plays, 1 yard, punt. 5 plays, 21 yards, punt. 5 plays, 17 yards, punt. 4 plays, 20 yards, pick. You're now down 24-0. You're not good enough to play that kind of ball. You don't have elite quarterback play. You're built on the run. The run is, ask anyone, ask the Ravens. The Ravens know better than anybody. You need to play with the lead. You have to play with the lead if you're going to run the ball. truly wasn't enough. They ended up scoring a touchdown, 9 plays, 65 yards. They ended up scoring a Baker Mayfield touchdown pass to make it 24-7. Shortly after that, it ends the half. But this is how they come out. 3 plays, negative 11 yards, punt. 4 plays, 8 yards, turnover on downs to start the half. I mean, just what did you concoct in the locker room? Nothing. So then the Steelers come out, 8 plays, 28 yards, and they score. Chase Claypool. So then, okay, Brownies, let's do something here. 7 plays, 39 yards, turnover on downs. Just pitiful to watch if you're a fan. I'm not a Browns fan. I didn't watch much of this game. I seen it going below the screen, and it's just like, wow, it's getting out of hand. And ultimately, we've said what their success is in this game, or for this team. It's run the football. They didn't do a whole lot of that. Baker ends up getting pulled late in this game for Case Keenum. I don't know that that's a long-term answer. But Beckham was a non-factor. Landry was a non-factor. Kareem Hunt was a non-factor. All the fantasy players this season have been non-factors. And the biggest thing was the Steelers did it every way they wanted to.
Yeah, the Browns, the touchdown drive that was 9 plays, 65 yards, they got a first down on an offsides penalty, and then they moved probably about 20 to 30 yards on a pass interference call. So they needed all that help to muster up a touchdown. And it was just that's not excuses, but it's just they needed all the help they could get for their one score.
That's unfortunate.
One kind of positive note for the Browns, if you can move past this game, they've been outscored in their 2 games of the Steelers and Ravens 76-13, and they have a positive point differential on the season. So if they're not playing the Steelers or Ravens, this Browns team is, I don't want to use the word formidable, but they're 4-0 against everyone, not the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Ravens. So the Browns can beat plenty of good teams in this league, but those teams that are at the next level, they're going to need better quarterback play, and they need a lot of help on the back end.
Yeah, I mean, so they're going to play the Bengals this weekend. This is a game, in my opinion, they can't afford to lose. This is a must-win for them. If you expect your team to believe in you, expect your team to think that they're a playoff contender, you got to beat what in most people would consider a low-level team in the Bengals, okay? Especially a divisional opponent who you've had their number, and it seems to be the only divisional opponent you're able to beat. I don't know, Browns fans. I'm not giving up on your team. I'm not saying you should give up on your team. The Steelers are, in Brad's opinion, the best team. In my opinion, a top 2 or 3 team. I think we'll know for sure after this weekend. To be honest, regardless of what happens in this game, I think they're both very good football teams. But the Browns aren't as good as the Steelers. We knew this. We said this. A lot of people listening know this. It's nothing we're hiding. The Browns just need to do a great job of beating the teams they can beat and get to the playoffs and see what they can do. Moving right along, we're into Game 4 here. Speaking of the AFC North, we have the Ravens defeating the Philadelphia Eagles 30-28. The Baltimore moves to 5-1. The Eagles move to 1-4-1. This game is actually quite deceiving. It was 24-6 going into the fourth quarter, and Philadelphia decides to score 22 points in the fourth. Baltimore adds 6, and that ends up being enough. Lamar Jackson was good in a sense, 16-27, 186 and a touchdown, no picks. He adds 9 carries for 108 yards and a touchdown on the ground. So he goes for 2 total touchdowns and a 100 game. So not bad at all. He is their leading rusher, both in yards and almost in carries. Gus Edwards ends up getting 14 carries in this game for absolutely nothing, 26 total yards. But the Eagles actually looked like a somewhat decent team in the fourth quarter. Carson Wentz, 21 of 40, and that alone's rough. 213, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Miles Sanders adds 9 carries for 118 yards. Wentz adds 5 carries for 49 yards and a touchdown. They were able to run the ball in this game. They just didn't do a lot of it. They were actually able to really, really, really run the ball. I don't know what to make of this Eagles team. We've said it. They're injured. They're extremely beat up. There's no way around that. And the Eagles are a good football team, and I'm shocked at how much they kind of gave up towards the end. Maybe they let their foot off the gas, but my opinion doesn't change on either of these teams. What do you got?
Yeah, Ravens got up big and kind of let their foot off the gas. But and you pretty much nailed it. I don't want to stay on this game too long, but Carson Wentz and this injured Eagles team has faced the number 1 and number 2 statistical defenses in the NFL in back-to-back weeks, and they put up over 50 points. So this Eagles team is capable. So they tied a high-powered offense in Joe Burrow. They lost to 2 of the top 5 teams in the NFL. The Eagles will see better days, I think, moving forward as they start to get some pieces back. I think they're getting maybe Alshon and Deshaun possibly back this weekend. Whispers of Jalen Reagor. But they do lose Zach Ertz, but they get Dallas Goedert back. They lose Miles Sanders, but I don't know if they've been just, outside of Miles Sanders, they haven't really had a running game. So look for Carson Wentz, shotgun, lots of passes, maybe dump offs. They play tonight. They play Thursday night, so we'll see what the Eagles can do. I've taken a huge risk personally in my survival league with prizes over $1,000. I'm taking the Eagles tonight over the Giants. So it's a big one for me, week 7 here. But I truly believe the Eagles are the better team, and I still think Carson Wentz is a top 6 quarterback in this league. Have some faith. They'll beat the Giants, give a little bit of reassurance. And as the year goes on, I believe Philadelphia will grow and will end up winning this division. That defensive line will cause a lot of problems.
Well, let's move on to the Giants. The Giants pick up their first win. We were wrong here. We can own it. Giants moved to 1-5. They defeat the Washington football team, who moves to 1-5 as well. 20-19. Extremely close game. A little bit of back and forth in this one. I don't have too much to say on it. Really, the biggest difference is the fact that New York was balanced. 132 on the ground. 70 of that was from Daniel Jones. 108 on the through the air, so 240 total yards. They both throw picks, but Washington fumbles. Time of possession, pretty much everything in this game, Washington dominated. They did have 8 penalties, though, and they allowed 3 sacks.
Yeah, the difference in this game is Washington let up a little bit of an early lead. They also had a missed field goal. And then to make matters worse, the Giants took a 43-yard fumble back for a touchdown to go up 20-13. And if you're the Washington football team, everyone can just blitz Ron Rivera for this if they want. But I have no problem with 2 teams this bad going for it. He went for a 2-point conversion at the end. It failed. Speaking of that, just backtrack real quick. The Eagles were a bad 2-point conversion play call away from maybe taking the Ravens to overtime. So they were right there. But Washington can't have any complaints. They should have won this game. The Giants, if they can hang their head on anything, they do have a pretty good run defense. But on the back end, without Saquon Barkley, again, they don't really have a running game. Daniel Jones averaged 10 yards a carry, somehow scrambling. That's just a coaching issue by the Washington football team. I just don't think they have enough players. But if you stop the run on this team, which doesn't seem to be very hard, I don't think Daniel Jones can just beat you through the air. He's just a turnover machine. I believe he's got more turnovers than touchdowns in his career starts, whether it be fumbles or interceptions. Golden Tate's been a no-show, 1 catch for 11 yards last week. Sterling Shepard's on IR. Devontae Freeman's getting the carries, but he's not really doing much with it. I just don't think the Giants have one good offensive game, and it was against the Cowboys, which I think everybody has a good offensive game against the Cowboys. So the Giants are still a bad football team. They are a missed field goal, missed 2-point conversion, and a fumble down away from being 0-6 along with the Jets. I don't buy too much into them, and that's, again, alluding to my pick tonight in survival. It's not so much about how good the Eagles can be. It's more or less, it's a little bit fluky here the last 2 weeks. The points they put up against the Cowboys' bad defense and this muddy mess of a game against Washington. The Giants are not a good football team, and I don't have any faith in them winning any games this season.
Pretty sad that they can win this game and move to first in the division.
It's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? Actually, I've seen the stat of the week, actually.
Eagles, right? You're talking about the Eagles.
Well, the Giants, if they beat the Eagles, they can move to first in the division, right?
I don't think so because the Cowboys are 1-0 in division, and the Cowboys would have one less loss. They'd be 2-4 as to where
Okay.
the Giants would be
Okay.
one. But the Eagles would be 2-4-1, and I think they would have a half game lead until the weekend when the Cowboys play. But
Well, listen to
it's
this
sad.
statistic. The Washington football team is currently one win away from being number one in the division and one loss away from being the number one pick in the draft.
Yeah. When we talk about the NFC East, I believe through 6 weeks they have a total of 5 wins, the entire division. The Cowboys, who are leading the division, in 6 other divisions, they would be fourth or fifth place in those divisions. We could go on for days about how bad they are. We'll get to the Cowboys in a little bit, but the worst defense of all time was the 1998 Colts, and they allowed, I believe it was 533 points on the season, or 531, or something like that number. The Cowboys are on pace for 588. They're on pace to have the most points allowed by 50 points in a season. We'll see if that continues, but goodness, there's nothing about this division that like are just not good. It's not good.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to this game. You nailed this right. I was wrong, but literally right before kickoff, I switched my pick'em. You either rubbed off on me, or I just eventually had a change of heart. But the Atlanta Falcons, they defeat the Minnesota Vikings. They get their first win of the season. They move to 1-5. It drops Minnesota to 1-5. They win big, 40-23. Matt Ryan is he's incredible. 30 of 40, 371, 4 touchdowns. Gurley was below average, 47 yards on 20 carries. The biggest story of the game, it's got to be what you said. They get Julio Jones back.
Welcome back.
And Julio Jones is typically known for one thing, not scoring touchdowns. He scores 2. He goes 8 catches, 137, 2 touchdowns. Ridley adds 1. Hayden Hurst adds 1. They just decimated the Vikings. This game was not close. They scored 10 points every single quarter.
I was about to say that. It's really weird that a team scores 10 in all 4 quarters.
Yeah.
If the Falcons have been anything but a model for consistency, they go 10, 10, 10, 10, which is kind of crazy. Big storyline this week going into the Lions. They, like you said, they could be 2-0 post Dan Quinn.
Yeah.
I really think through injuries and struggles, the emergence of Calvin Ridley is what helped Julio Jones get this stat line. They can no longer put all of their coverage to Julio because Calvin Ridley has proven to be the real deal. The Vikings have shipped out Yannick Ngakoue. They understand they're realistic. Packers and Bears are way ahead of us right now. Time to start maybe getting some draft picks. Looking forward into the future. I know the team lost the head coach, coordinator, and defensive coordinator, and their starting wide receiver.
In all their corners.
And all their corners. So I'm not going to be shocked that they're bad now, like that their team is so different than what they were. But I just didn't see them go 1-5. I didn't think the Vikings were that bad, but it seems like the Vikings were kind of bad. They get Stefanski and they're good for a couple of years with Kirk Cousins, and then he leaves and they're back to crap. So maybe we need to give credit where credit's due to Stefanski and what he can do as a head coach. And again, outside of the Ravens and Steelers, he's done a phenomenal job with the Browns organization. So we'll see going forward. But the Falcons' offense is real. You're not going to be able to come in and score 25 and beat the Falcons. You're going to have to hit the 30 mark to beat the Falcons. And they're a couple coin flips away from being maybe even like a 3-3 team at this point. So the Falcons, they're a scary team, and the rest of their division's beating themselves up. I mean, who knows? They win 3 straight, they could be in contention for second place in their division.
Yeah, definitely one thing about the Falcons is that if you have them on your schedule right now and you're like, oh, we play the Falcons, that's a W. No, you can't just chalk it up as a W. They can beat anybody with their offense. And we've really been hard on them this year about their defense. And what do they do this game? The first game without Dan Quinn, they pick off Kirk Cousins 3 times. If they can get some sort of defensive presence, this is a good football team.
And they held them to 33 rushing yards. I know there was no Dalvin Cook, They held him to 33 rushing yards and then picked off Kirk Cousins 3 times. They suffocated
They abandoned the
fight.
run, to be fair. The Vikings did.
Yeah, but they suffocated him for the whole first half.
Yeah.
I mean, they shut him out in the first half. If anybody would have said the Vikings or the Falcons would shut anybody out in the first half, you'd have been like, absolutely not.
No. Yeah, the one thing I want to say about the Vikings, to give them a little bit of a plug, they, a couple weeks ago, we said that Justin Jefferson, needed more time. And literally from the moment we said that, he has blown up. So it's him. It's CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy kind of, and then Chase Claypool. Really, are those are like the 4 emerging wide receivers from the draft class. Would you agree? Is there anybody else that I'm not?
Maybe I'm missing somebody, and you can peep us on the pod, but yeah, CeeDee Lamb has gone for 10 plus fantasy points in every matchup.
Yeah.
Justin Jefferson has blown up over the last 3 weeks. After the Deontay Johnson injury, when Chase Claypool comes in, 4 touchdowns. Next game, he's got another touchdown. Been amazing. So, yeah, you got to credit these rookie wide receivers for really getting the job done. Jerry Jeudy's kind of gotten the short end of the stick in Denver with what's going on, but
yeah, it's just
Henry Ruggs. He's played pretty well.
Henry Ruggs has been hurt, but he did at least have one really good game against the Chiefs. But yeah, I think we know that Ruggs is going to be good. I think we know he's going to be good though.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, go ahead and I guess we'll move on here. Moving on to the Detroit Lions and the Jacksonville Jaguars. I nailed this one. You kind of were a little iffy, and then you ended up picking the Jags. Lions moved to 2-3, pick up a victory, 34-16 over the Jags. Jags moved to 1-5. Detroit was pretty consistent in this game. They didn't move up big and then drop a few in a row. They literally scored 7 points, 10 points, 7 points, 10 points. I mean, they pretty consistent throughout. Matt Stafford was all right. Story of the game, though, they finally let Swift run it. 14 carries, 116, 2 touchdowns. I think he had a 50-yard run, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe even 2. I guess I don't know. He had at least 150-yard run. But Kennedy Golladay goes for 100 yards receiving through the air. Peterson also gets 15 carries. So they ran it a ton on Jacksonville. They really exploited their run defense. I don't have too much to go in on. Minshew wasn't terrible. He was 25 of 44, 243. Touchdown, a pick. He had a rushing touchdown to go along with it. It just isn't enough. Detroit was better. They had 400 total yards. A lot of that was on the ground, and they ran it really well. So,
yeah, what I saw previously from the Jaguars, I relatively liked. I know they were a 1-4 team going into this, but saw some stuff from their offense that was kind of promising or hopeful. But this defense is just way too far behind the league. I don't know how they got that upset win over the Colts week 1. Kudos to them. But since then, they've been the Jaguars we thought they would be.
Yeah, they have been.
I think I just bought way too much into that first win, but it is completely gone. I don't think the Jaguars can turn me now. They're a top 5 draft pick, and the defense is just too far behind. So maybe in hindsight, I should have known Matt Stafford, Kenny Golladay, that trio of running backs that they have. It just proved too much. And the Jaguars don't have much to look forward to this year.
Yeah. Let's move on to another one. This one was a fun game. The Colts moved to 4-2, picking up the victory 31-27 over the Cincinnati Bengals, who moved to 1-4-1. This game was really weird because I predicted a blowout. I said it would be too much for the Bengals. The Bengals opened up this game as if they were going to blow the Colts out, and then the Colts end up going and scoring 31. They outscored them 31-6 in the final 3 quarters of this, or final 2.5 quarters of this game. But Burrow jumps out to a huge lead. He's pretty good in this game. 25 of 39, 313, no touchdowns, 1 pick. He ends up adding a rushing touchdown in this game. But they were decent on the ground, nothing crazy, but they threw it around a ton. They were able to get the big lead. I believe they even had, I think they had a turnover that led for a touchdown. Not a touchdown, but it was close, ended up getting close to a touchdown. The Colts just, they played their game. They were able to pick up the W. Both teams, if you're looking at the box score, it's hard to predict how this one really went down. But what do you got?
I officially don't understand the Colts.
Yeah, that's
They
fair.
just win so many different ways, but they lose in weird ways as well. Like Philip Rivers threw 44 times. That's typically not how you want to do it. And 3 touchdowns to 1 pick, 371 yards. They only run the ball 15 total times, but really the only ones were 12 carries for 60 yards by Jonathan Taylor. Your running back's averaging 5 yards a carry. He only gets it 12 times. Don't understand that. But Philip Rivers sprays that ball around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different guys with targets and catches. The Bengals, Joe Burrow throws for 300 yards, no touchdowns. That's awfully weird. Joe Mixon went down late in this game. That kind of hurt him late. But yeah, up 21-0 and then up 24-7, and they just couldn't do it. I know their defense is bad, but typically, it looked like the Bengals were going to win. I didn't think the Colts had any right to score 31 points this game. There was 2 quarters they didn't even score a point, and they scored 31. They had an explosion in the back quarter of both halves, the second and fourth. But the kudos to the Colts defense, because the Bengals in the first quarter 14, second quarter 10, third quarter 3, fourth quarter 0. So the Colts defense really grew into the game the more they got to see Burrow and Philip Rivers. He got the job done, and Colts win. But I'm out on the Colts as a Super Bowl contender, but they could really throw a big wrench into the playoffs this year, I think, or at least the race. I mean, 4-2, and their games against the Titans are really going to determine that division because they have a chance to catch up and play a big part in this.
Yeah, another rookie receiver, by the way, T. Higgins, had a nice game here. He's working out. So, rookie receivers working everywhere. We're just moving along here. Another fun one. This was a good game. I was wrong on this. I think you were right. The Chicago Bears moved to 5-1, defeating the Carolina Panthers, who moved to 3-3, 23-16. Chicago was good. Nothing dominant, but they were good. Foles, 23 of 39, 198, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. He adds a rushing touchdown. Lots of quarterbacks had a touchdown and a rushing touchdown this week. It was really strange. Teddy Bridgewater, for the first time this year, had a bad game. Not even a solid, it's just a bad game. 26 of 29, 216, and 2 picks, no touchdowns to add. It wasn't enough. They did have a chance to win this game late, but it ended up ending in an interception. And Bears are a good football team. We know this. I'm still good on the Panthers. I think they're a well-coached team, and I think they're going to be fun to watch. It's just they ran into a better team, definitely a better defensive team too.
This might sound cliche, but these are one of those games where the Panthers needed Christian McCaffrey. The passing game wasn't working, and the ground game wasn't working that much. Like you said, the Bears defense is amazing. I've been one of the highest people on the Bears on the Facebook page, including Bears fans. I feel like I've had less doubt on the Bears than them, but maybe their hesitancy is warranted with what they've seen the past few years. I said on last spot, I think the Bears are Super Bowl bound. I think the Bears are a team that could make it on the NFC. I believe they are missing one thing, and that's, trade deadline. They need to go find a second running back because Montgomery had 19 for 58. They had 5 carries for 4 yards out of their quarterback, and they had 1 reverse to Cordell Patterson that went for a yard. They're trying to play him kind of at running back, wide receiver in these jet sweeps. They just need one more guy who can come in and just pound the ball, give them a threat to run. Allen Robinson, he's way too underrated in this league. They're starting to get the other tight end, Cole Clement, the rookie. They're starting to get him involved. Nick Foles likes big targets. So the 2 tight ends, Allen Robinson, and Nick Foles knows he doesn't have to do a whole lot because this Bears defense is for real. And the Panthers are almost there. They weren't expected to be 3-3 this year. Panthers are way ahead of their timeline, and they'll get Christian McCaffrey back. They'll be able to draft a few more pieces next year, and The Panthers are up and coming, but the Bears proved to be too much here this year.
Yeah, it was one of those things that if you look at the box score, Carolina's better in every statistic. They had more total yards. They were just shy in passing yards. They dominated them in the run game, almost double. The points scored, obviously, Chicago scores more, but the reason being is Carolina turned the ball over 3 times. I mean, that alone, and they allowed 4 sacks. Chicago didn't allow any sacks. They had 1 pick. That's the biggest difference. Carolina continues to be a heavily penalized team. They had 8 penalties. The Panthers they're a year away, probably 2 years away from being really good. Teddy Bridgewater is not a long-term answer, but he's definitely doing what they need him to do for now. And like you said, they were Christian McCaffrey away from probably winning this game. So who knows? We'll see. Moving on, Minnesota. The Miami Dolphins defeat the worst team in football, the New York Jets, 24-0. Miami moves to 3-3. The Jets move to 0-6. The Jets don't score a single point. I wasn't shocked. What do you got on this game?
Joe Flacco still got it. Threw 44 times for 186 yards. 1 pick. Frank Gore still an animal. 11 carries, 46 yards.
Stop.
They got receivers all over the place. Crowder, 7 catches for 48 yards. No, the Jets are so bad. The Jets are just god-awful. I said this on the last pod, and I just want people to understand this. Point differential. The third worst team in the league in point differential is minus 54. That's the Washington football team, who oddly enough just played the Giants, whose point differential is minus 56. Those combined, incidentally, is 110. That, my friends, is the point differential for the Jets this year. They have been outscored through 6 games by 110 points. That's almost like 17 points a game. The Jets are so bad. I don't even want to talk about this. The Dolphins are a good team, well coached, total mismatch. Adam Gase, dear Lord, get him out of there. They should just blank canvas, sell everyone, and bring in a CFL team and start from there. I mean, nothing works on this team. Moving over to the Dolphins, I don't even want to focus on what happened really in the game, but apparently 2 for 2 for 9 yards is enough to win the job in Miami's organization. I think that's the only talking point that really comes from this game. It seems like before the season, the Miami Dolphins put a blindfold on to Fitzpatrick's quarterback play and decided when we hit the bye week, Tua is our starter. COVID moved that forward about 3 weeks. They didn't care. They have a chance to win the division. Ryan Fitzpatrick's playing really well, but they watch every practice, and apparently they think Tua will give them a better chance to win. His first game is against Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. We'll see how that's going to go because the next week they play the Chargers with 3 Pro Bowlers at corner and Joey Bosa, and I believe they get Melvin Ingram back that week. Tough sledding for Tua. The Dolphins are in the hunt for this division, and I don't know what it's going to do to his confidence if he doesn't play well and they move back to Ryan Fitzpatrick. They have a chance to really botch this situation. I believe this situation can only go really good or really bad after this decision. I don't think there's we're doing okay. This is going to be just really bad or really good. I don't think this is a level situation, but what do you got on that?
I somewhat agree with what you said, but I'm going to add another layer because I don't think that 2 of 2 for 9 yards is what they've seen. I think they've seen 2 losses in the column of the Bills. They smelled blood. I think they have a legitimate chance at winning a division. And I watched week 1 of the Dolphins with some Dolphins fans against the Patriots, and the team struggled to move the ball. They've had their times this year where it seems like they've been in every game. They were even in the game against New England. They lost by 10 points. I mean, you're in the game. But I've asked fans and I've posed a question: at what point would you make a QB change if you felt like the QB was the only thing holding you back? And maybe that's it. Ryan Fitzpatrick hasn't been incredible this year. So I don't want to get into that. I don't think by any means that he's been incredible. I think he's been all right. I mean, here's his stats on the year, and again, this isn't jumping off the page. 1,500 yards, which is good for roughly 15th in the league or so. 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and he's passing at 70% and about 8 yards an attempt. So he's having a good year, except for a little turnover prone. Okay, and they're 3-3, and I would argue that their running game is as good as it's been all year, and their defense is playing real good. I mean, that's really been the highlight of their team, is how good their defense has actually played.
When you watch the Dolphins, I know everyone says they know the situation. You know, Tua is going to be brought in, Fitzpatrick's molding him, but like the whole team really seemed to love Ryan Fitzpatrick. And I wonder if in a game where Tua makes the wrong read or doesn't audible out of a play call, or maybe like there's a communication issue and something goes wrong and the offense like, well, that doesn't happen to Ryan, you know, or if there's these little subtle things that the locker room starts to turn. And so say they put in Tua, you're now asking him to be a good Rams team, and then you want him to play against another rookie in Justin Herbert, who's been playing lights out. What happens if they lose to the Rams and then Justin Herbert outplays him? And let's say they lose that game, or say they win, but Justin Herbert massively outplays him.
Herbert's been playing for weeks.
No, and I understand that, but Herbert from first throw.
I know.
And he almost beat the Chiefs. And he almost beat the
Brady.
Buccaneers.
Yeah.
He's played Mahomes and Brady, and he's competing at a very high level.
Yeah.
I just think it's an awful lot to ask for Tua. I don't have a problem with this move. I have the problem with the timing of it. The
timing is weird. The timing's weird.
Yeah, it's just totally off-putting. No one saw this coming. Like I said, it was supposed to be the bye, and then it was Broncos, Jets, Bengals again, or Jets, Bengals, Broncos, or something like that, which is 3 pretty bad defenses. Their bye week got moved up, and it seems like I just don't think they care. They're like, when there's a bye week in the middle of the season, that's when we're switching to Tua. I don't think Ryan Fitzpatrick, in hindsight, had a chance. Shave off 3 picks. Say he had 10 touchdowns with 4 picks. Still think Tua's coming in.
For me, it's the 2 losses to the Bills and the 3 losses to New England. I think the Dolphins think that they can compete for the division. That I'm almost certain of it. Because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
I guess alluding to that, putting myself in your shoes thinking that way, Fitzpatrick has had a shot to beat the Bills and Patriots.
And didn't.
He lost both those games.
Yes, he did. You're right.
Let's put in Tua, see if he can beat them. I guess I understand that logic and thinking. Maybe it's because we all love Ryan Fitzpatrick so much.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I'm going to break down this real quick. Ryan Fitzpatrick was pretty open this past week. He was interviewed on what his opinion was, and all year when interviewed, he said, "I'm a bench warmer for Tua." He has been very vocal about that. I'm trying to teach him everything I can while still trying to win. And then he was finally benched, and his exact words is heartbroken, and because he felt like the timing's weird. The timing is weird, but again, it's got to be because they smell blood. I think the bye week obviously probably plays in there. There's a lot, and if you guys are listening,
imagine the coaching staff though. Hey Ryan, I want you to come in here and sit down. How you doing, Coach? What's going on, man? Yeah, we're starting Tua now. Why? We smell blood in the water, and you're simply not a good enough quarterback. Is that what they told him? Because I mean, to be blindsided, he must have thought that it was supposed to be later in the season. And he said, I really felt like I was in control of this team because he's playing relatively well. They're 3-3. They're second in the division right now. So if that's the logic, if they're like, we smell blood in the water, we can win the division, like, it just doesn't make sense because, like, how do you tell that to Ryan?
This has Belichick written all over it. This is something Belichick would do. Tell me it's not. I mean, Brian Flores coaching under Belichick for so long, it's like just when you think you're playing well, Belichick looks on paper and says, 70% completion, 10 touchdowns, 7 picks. My rookie at Alabama was completing over 70%. I bet she can do it here too. I'm almost certain that this is you're not good enough. You're not. And I mean, we could obviously argue this for days. I think we have different opinions maybe, but Fitzpatrick hasn't been dominant in this league ever. He's had games here and there. That's why we call him Fitzmagic or whatever, but surely he's never been a consistent 16 game great Pro Bowl-esque quarterback. That's just not his game. It's really
That's
not.
fair. And I want to root for Tua. I mean, he's a guy I can get behind, but I just think it's a really tall order because if it blindsided Ryan, if he's being honest with that, it had to have blindsided Tua as well.
Yeah.
But we'll see where it goes.
Let's move on to the next one. I predicted this game would have the highest rating of the week. Unfortunately, I didn't grab the rating for this before this. Tampa Bay moves to 4-2, defeating the Green Bay Packers, who suffered their first loss of the year. They moved to 4-1, 38-10. This game starts out a little crazy. Green Bay jumps out to a 10-0 lead in the first quarter, where they begin to drive in the second quarter to go up 17-0. And Aaron Rodgers throws what is a pick six. And Tampa Bay never looked back. An absolute beatdown. Defensively, in the run game, in the play action game, they did however they wanted. I mean, that's just really where it comes down to. The total yards in this one, 324 to 201. Aaron Rodgers has an abysmal game. 107 passing yards, or 160 passing yards, I'm sorry, with 2 picks, no touchdowns. Definitely not an Aaron Rodgers type game. Just Tampa Bay doesn't turn the ball over at all in this one. Green Bay, this is the fun fact that we've thrown out on this show a couple times. Aaron Rodgers came into this game being sacked 3 times in 4 games. He's sacked 5 times in this one.
He was brought into this game being hit 9 times all year. He was hit 11 times against the Buccaneers.
Buccaneers dominated him, and I was talking on the podcast. I predicted this to be a Tampa Bay win. You picked the Packers, and I know you said that the defense and the running game, and they're the bigger reasons of why, but actually really good in this game. 17-27 doesn't sound the best for 266 and 2 touchdowns, but the fact that he was able to find Gronk, there's actually a throw in here on 3rd down. He throws into double and ends up becoming triple coverage to Gronk, and Gronk makes a hell of a sideline catch. His touchdown later in the drive was actually great too. Gronk looked like prime Gronk in this game, and that was probably my biggest thing watching this. Like, because Brady's looked good all year. He hasn't really played bad, so to speak. He's thrown a couple of pick sixes, but hasn't played bad. The Chicago game was a little rough, but to see Gronk really turn around here was really big. And for me, it was bigger than seeing Mike Evans' 1 catch for 10 yards, because we know what we're getting with Evans. This is the first game he didn't produce all year.
Right.
I mean, it's really the first game he didn't produce. He was only targeted 2 times. They really wanted to dominate in the run game, which they did. They carried it over 30 times. Yeah. I got nothing else. This is a disappearing act from Aaron Rodgers. We mentioned it yesterday. Aaron Rodgers' win percentage in his career, if he trails at any point, is under a coin flip. He's less than a coin flip to win the game. That's bad. And Brady, when he trails at any point in a game, is 65%, and that's basically his career winning percentage. So it doesn't affect him. Trailing doesn't ever affect Tom Brady, but it clearly affects Aaron Rodgers. And that's really all I got to say on this. I think moving forward, I think Tampa Bay is a better football team. Green Bay is going to beat a lot of good people, but anybody that's going to get physical with them, the Chicago Bears, I mean, there's a lot of good defenses. The Chiefs have a good defense. The Steelers, God forbid, if they were to meet them in the Super Bowl, that would be a horrible matchup for Green Bay. There's a lot of physical teams up front. The Rams even. There's a lot of teams that just have Green Bay's number if they're going to play physical.
Yeah, I don't want to take a ton of time. Brady wasn't spectacular, but he was incredibly efficient.
Yeah.
Like you said, 17 for 27. The Packers have no rush defense. Tampa Bay ran for more yards than they threw for. They were able to just run the ball down their throat. Aaron Rodgers had 8 more attempts than Brady with 6 less yards, 16 for 35. They've been blown out 5 4 or 5 times in the past year and a half. And it's the Eagles dominant on both sides of the line. 49ers dominant on both sides of the line. Tampa Bay dominant on both sides of the line. The teams can run all over the Packers. It leaves Aaron Rodgers on the sideline and he gets in his feels. Oh, we can't stop them, so I got to do everything. He's throwing the ball away. He's getting hit constantly. The Packers turn into this kind of finesse team, and it's like it just seems like when things are going right, Aaron Rodgers is Superman and the Packers are untouchable. But they came out and punched a team in the mouth for the 5th straight week. But for the first time, that team got up and punched them in the mouth, and they folded. And that's as simple as that. After the first pick six, you're like, okay, we got a game. Tampa Bay hasn't really been moving the ball, but it's 7-10 now. Aaron Rodgers throws basically a second pick six. They run it back to the 2. Tampa Bay runs that in, and you're like, this just doesn't happen. Here we go. We got a game 14-10. And then the Packers come out 3 plays, 0 yards, punt. And you're like, okay, the Packers kind of seem scared. Then Tampa Bay gets it 11 plays, 50 yards, touchdown. And I truly believe every single person watching the game, it was over.
Yeah.
I believe there wasn't a single person after it went 21-10 and there was 6 minutes and 5 seconds left in the second quarter, I believe. And this game was over. Or no, everything happened so fast. Yeah, it was in the second quarter. 6 minutes left in the second quarter, 21-10 Buccaneers. And everyone knew. Nathan Ray, I'd like to give you a peep. You put out on the podcast, you said, can the Packers come back in the second half? And I am one who put I clicked yes, and I said everything's going to have to be perfect, and they can, but it's not likely. Even saying it's not likely even there seems like, no, there was no chance. There was no chance. The Packers team folded. They're going to definitely win more games than they lose going forward. But anytime you find a team that can run the ball efficiently and has a power front on defense, the Packers have a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Moving right along here. We'll keep it moving. San Francisco 49ers moved to 3-3, defeating the Los Angeles Rams, who moved to 4-2, 24-16 of a final. Biggest storyline of this game for me is San Francisco starting to maybe find their groove. Offensively, they're healthy. That's really what matters. Jimmy Garoppolo, 23 of 33, 268, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Kittle, 100 yards and a touchdown. Samuel, 60 yards and a touchdown. Brandon Ayuk, the rookie, scored a touchdown. Really starting to move the ball. The passing yards was great. They outrushed LA. My biggest takeaway for that is the Niners' health, and also what I touched on yesterday as far as keeping them out of the Power 10 of the Rams. The Rams haven't beat a good team yet. They're 4-2 and don't have any good wins. Everybody's been harping on the Steelers. The Rams haven't beat a soul. So as of right now, Rams are held back. They need to beat a good team, and they need to do it the whole way, not just squeak one out at the end. They need to beat a good team, because right now I'm not sure they can. The Rams are sorry, not the Rams. The Niners are handcuffed. They're beat up on defense, extremely beat up on defense. There's guys starting getting tackles that a lot of people have never even heard of, and they never sacked. They never sacked Goff. So it's not like they're getting a ton of pressure. The Rams weren't able to really move the ball and do the things that we think they're good at. But that's all I got.
Yeah. I missed the mark on this game. I had more confidence in the Rams. I thought maybe it was a fluke that they've only beat NFC East teams. That's becoming a trend now. How good are they? Is this an 8-8 team we're looking at? Especially in division. If they can't beat the 49ers, they're gonna struggle in division. And I just want to say kudos to Kyle Shanahan. He is just such an offensive mind. The plays he runs makes Jimmy Garoppolo so comfortable in the game. Aaron Donald was a non-factor. George Kittle is the best tight end in football. I mean, he left for 2 weeks, came back and was like, sorry, I'm gone. 46 and then like 26 points in fantasy, over 100 yards in both. He's so fun to watch. 49ers are a good team. They're healthy offensively. I thought they had too many defensive injuries to overcome it, but they are playing really good defense, and 49ers team's 3-3, and although they're not the powerhouse they were last year, they're already having 3 losses, and that's what they totaled last year. I don't think anybody wants to play the 49ers right now.
New England's got a tough matchup with them this weekend. It's gonna be interesting. And Jimmy G's coming back to Foxborough for the first time. So
yeah.
We'll keep it moving here. The Kansas City Chiefs moved to 5-1. They defeat the Buffalo Bills 26-17, dropping the Bills to 4-2. 2 straight losses for the Bills. This game's a lot closer in score than it actually was. The Bills were able to punch one in kind of late, but then the Chiefs put it away with a field goal, and then immediately after, the Bills would throw an interception. Mahomes, 21 of 26, 225, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. I think the biggest story here, though, is probably Le'Veon Bell on his couch watching Clyde Edwards-Helaire go 26 carries for 161. He adds 4 catches for 8 yards, so not too much there. But another tight end that's in the discussion for best in the league, Travis Kelce, 5 catches, 65 yards, 2 touchdowns. They weren't able to really do this with big plays. They just pounded it right down the Bills' throats, which goes to show you what they really think of the Bills, because this is a throwing team. The Chiefs throw it on everybody. They throw 35 to 40 times on everyone, and they didn't. They threw it under 30 times, and they ran it over 40 times. So really goes to show you what they think of the Bills. Josh Allen didn't play terrible, but it was nowhere near enough, and they weren't able to get a running game going. So that was the difference.
Yep, Josh Allen, 2 big games back-to-back. He hasn't really performed as to what we want him to.
Yeah.
I think this game was 100% about the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes, he alluded to how, we were throwing the ball all over the place and getting fancy. And Andy Reid to be able to rein the team back in and say, look, we're going to simplify this thing. We're going to run it down their face. Patrick Mahomes was incredibly efficient, 21 for 26. We talked about how Tom Brady threw 27 times for 166, or Aaron Rodgers 35 for only 160. He only needed 21 completions to hit 225. They can gash you a multitude of ways. And, I didn't know this, but, we learn new things every day. I watch Colin Cowherd, and I learned a statistic. I thought Le'Veon Bell, just like everyone else, why do you need him? You already have all these pieces. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, second time this year, goes for 161. Le'Veon Bell is the last thing this Chiefs offense needed. The Chiefs this year have had 9 rush attempts with goal-to-go situations for -1 yards. They can't run the ball in short down situations. When it's 3rd and 1 or when it's 2nd and goal, short yard situations, they struggle. Clyde Edwards-Helaire isn't the biggest guy. There's no one else really there. Well, now on 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2, Le'Veon Bell's in the backfield, and this team becomes an absolute nightmare because he's a dual threat, but he's also a power back. He's not built for the long gashes. So this team going forward, they had 26 rush attempts by Clyde, and then they had 10 by other guys, some wide receivers, some running backs. They had 10 by the quarterback. I won't count the scrambles. But those are going to go to Le'Veon Bell. And this team's going to be able to run the ball. And Patrick Mahomes doesn't really make mistakes. Even when they had to win by throwing the ball 40 times, he's not a big mistake maker. This team is going to be, without a doubt, if they're not already, the most difficult offense to stop. And they have just enough playmakers on defense. Tyrann Mathieu, along with DeAndre, I don't know how the Texans let players like this go. But Chris Jones, Frank Clark, Tyrann Mathieu, they're really playing solid defensively. And God, every quarterback, it's got to mess with their heads when they go into Kansas City, knowing how many points they have to score to have a shot to win.
Yeah, it's rough. I don't have anything else to add. We'll keep it moving here. The Arizona Cardinals defeat the Cowboys on the nightcap of Monday Night Football, 38-10. They moved to 4-2. The Cowboys dropped to 2-4. No Dak in this one, obviously. This is a strange game because even though the Cardinals blew out the Cowboys, Kyler Murray struggled in this one. 9 of 24, 188, 2 touchdowns. He averaged 21 yards per completion, but 4 of those completions went to Christian Kirk and DeAndre Hopkins. Kirk had 2 catches for 2 catches for 86. And Hopkins had 2 for 73. So big completions to those guys. They were able to run it though 35 times for just 261, just absolutely dominant on the ground. That's really the difference of this game, is how balanced they ended up being and how dominant they were up front, just similar to the game we talked about. And it just seems like anybody that's willing to really put their foot down and run the ball, they're having success in this league. They're winning games. Anybody that's gone for 200 yards rushing, I don't think anybody's lost. I think they've got to be undefeated. If anybody's rushed for 200 and lost, I need to hear about it. Please peep me, but I don't believe it's happened.
Cowboys, it's not disguised anymore. They have the worst defense in the NFL. Period. I want to defend my Andy Dalton take because I know a lot of you guys thought he looked absolutely atrocious. I do believe Andy Dalton is good, but he's not a guy who's supposed to throw 54 times in a football game. I don't know if there's many quarterbacks that are, but Patrick Mahomes threw 26 times this weekend. Tom Brady threw 27 times this weekend. If you combine the two, it's less attempts than Andy Dalton had this weekend. That's not how you win games. I know it's tough because we'll hand the ball off. Zeke's fumbling all over the place. Now you've got, the teams leaking information that, players are honestly saying coaches don't know what they're doing. This whole organization, pardon my language, is a shit show. The Cowboys are terrible. They're not fun to watch anymore. The offensive line has gone in 2 years from a top 5 to maybe even a bottom 5 with all the injuries that have taken place. And teams with a pass rush can make it difficult on this team. I mean, even look what the Giants were able to do to the Cowboys, with their pass rush. I mean, without Dak's mobility, that's not Andy Dalton's game, and this team is up against it because now there's no formula for this team to win. It seems like from play to play, they're hoping stuff works.
Yeah,
it's just hard to watch.
And to be fair, I'd be the first one to be like, you can't win a game asking Zeke to carry 12 times and asking Andy Dalton, who's been on the bench for a year, to throw 54. Well, Zeke did them no favors. He fumbled twice, lost them both. So clearly they lost hope in him, that they even started running Tony Pollard 10 times. So
you would be shocked if before this game, because some people even had the Cowboys. Crazy enough, I thought the Cowboys would win this game.
Yeah.
If I said Kyler Murray's going to complete 9 passes today, would you think they were going to win?
Blown out.
No, and they won by 28 points. Now, I know the run game happened and all that, but 9 completions and they beat the brakes off the Cowboys. It's just embarrassing.
Not right.
Embarrassing.
It's not right because the Cardinals did what the Cowboys should have done, and the Cowboys did what you would have thought the Cardinals would do.
Yeah, this scoreline's flipped.
They literally are flipped.
Listen to the 5. If you were watching this game, these are the first drives in the first quarter. Punt, 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 fumble. Like that's Cardinals, Cowboys, Cardinals, Cowboys, Cardinals, Cowboys. Punt, 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 fumble.
Touchdown, and then on a short field.
Fumble, touchdown, punt. Yeah.
Matter of fact, they took 11 plays on 54 yards. So they fumble. It took them 11 plays to go 54 yards.
And then
both of these teams aren't very good.
Cowboys started giving them chances after that. It was fumble, touchdown, punt, touchdown. They couldn't stop them after that. And the one touchdown, I mean, you want to talk about Kyler Murray, 9 completions for what was it, 188 yards? 80 of it came on a beauty. He hauled that sucker in. I thought he was going to drop it. But, I mean, the Cowboys, at least once a game, you get a 70-yard play, it seems like. I mean, they're just waiting to give them to you. I wonder if all the players are out there to spite the coaches and they're playing this bad on purpose, because there's no way an NFL defense should look this bad.
Yeah.
Like I said, they're on pace to allow 588 points this year. That's just incredible. And now I'm worried because the Steelers have to play the Cowboys, and if you lose to the Cowboys, it's so embarrassing at this point with how bad of a team they are. I don't think
Yeah.
the Steelers will, but again, like I feel like teams now are more nervous that the Cowboys are on the schedule, not because they're a tough team, but because man, if you lose to the Cowboys, everyone around you is going to let you know about it. Because quite frankly, I think if right now, today, this weekend, the Eagles and Cowboys played, I think everyone would think the Eagles are going to win. At least the Eagles look like they know what they're doing. They're just a
Yeah.
little hurt. Like I said, the Cowboys, it seems like every play, it's a new team that walks on the field, and they're just hoping for stuff to work. It's, oh, they're the worst coach team in the NFL outside of the Jets, and it's close.
It's just crazy because Dallas has 4 turnovers, 2 fumbles, 2 picks, and they get sacked 3 times. Just poor football, poor execution. Just just an absolute train wreck.
Even left the Bengals.
Yeah, yeah,
Feels like the same thing, just in a different uni.
yeah. It's tough, but that wraps up all the games. Went through them all. I'm excited for Week 7. To have this week in the past after New England's rough outing. I'm excited to see who bounces back and who doesn't. There's lots of storylines moving forward. There's a little bit of Antonio Brown coming up that we'll probably get to next week as that becomes more clear. But as we alluded to on the power rankings yesterday, lots of good games moving forward. And that's really all I have. Anything else, Brad?
I know a lot of people, it might be hard, especially the local guys, to admit it, but after the Steelers beat the Titans, don't be afraid to say they're the best team in the NFL right now.
Yeah, they definitely have a case. I'm still on Kansas City as far as a top team. They're going to play the Broncos this week, even with a W. Obviously the Tennessee and Steelers are going to play each other, so you would assume that the winner of that. But unless the Chiefs look bad, they might still be my number one. But it depends. We'll see how these two play. I believe the Titans and the Steelers are way more equal than people think they are.
It's two very good teams.
We say this every time. They match up in a weird, really, really weird way because the Steelers run defense and what the Titans try to do running the football. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a fun matchup. I can't wait for it personally. I'm glad that New England plays at 4 o'clock because I will be tuning in. That's all I got for today.
Yep. Take it easy, guys. Shirts are in. Again, with the shirts, peep you one more time. Anthony Pratt, Kyle Miller, congratulations. Thanks for sharing the pod, getting us out in the ether, so to speak. And you guys got your free shirts. We'll be getting those to you, and we'll be getting shirts out and about over the next week or two. Hopefully everyone get their shirts. Wear them out to the restaurants. Wear them to work if you can. Wear them wherever you got to go. Have tell them about us. If you enjoy listening to us, I'm sure they do too. And thank all you guys for helping us grow the brand. This is really fun for Jeff and I, and we have a great time with this. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And if you guys have somebody who sees you guys out and about and you're wearing a Real Talk shirt and they say, hey, what's your shirt mean? Please tell them about us. Please, tell them either Spotify or Anchor or YouTube or how they can find us and, send them a quick invite to the Facebook page, whatever. And if you do that, we'll try and get something special for you guys. We'll have some giveaways here in the future. But until next time, we'll see you later. Hopefully back Sunday for Real Talk. Later.
Go Steelers.
Go Pats.